But when collectors realized what it really was, it shocked the entire coin world. Because this 1980 Lincoln 1-cent penny has sold for up to $1.6 million. And here's the crazy part. Thousands of people have handled one without even knowing it looks ordinary. Copper red shine, Abraham Lincoln's face on the front, the familiar Lincoln Memorial on the back. But beneath that simple surface hides one of the rarest minting mistakes ever to leave the U.S. Mint. A mistake so subtle that even expert coin dealers missed it for decades. The story begins in 1980, a year of transition. The U.S. Mint was still adjusting to changes in production from the 1970s. Machines were being replaced, dies were reused, and quality control wasn't exactly flawless. Somewhere between the Philadelphia and Denver mints, something strange happened. A small batch of Lincoln pennies came out slightly different, an error so rare it took years to even be identified. Most of these coins entered regular circulation. They jingled in pockets, rolled through vending machines, sat in coffee cans, and were used to pay for gas, gum, and groceries. No one noticed. Not until one man in the early 2000s, while sorting through old change for his grandson's coin collection, spotted something that didn't look quite right that he noticed that the date, 1980, seemed unusually bold. The edges of Lincoln's bust looked doubled, like a faint shadow of the same image just barely out of line. When he held it under a magnifying glass, he realized he was staring at a doubled die obverse, one of the rarest errors in U.S. coin history. But that wasn't the only thing that made this coin valuable. There was another clue, the mint mark, or rather, its mysterious absence. Some of these 1980 pennies were struck with an unusually misplaced or faint mint mark, while others had an impossible combination of details that shouldn't exist on any regular issue coin. Experts believe it was the result of a minting die being accidentally reused from an earlier batch, producing what collectors now call the ghost mark variety. When news broke about this penny, the coin collecting world went wild. Forums lit up. Dealers began tearing through old rolls. And prices exploded. One verified specimen, authenticated by a top grading company, sold for over $1.6 million. A coin that once bought a single piece of candy suddenly became a symbol of unimaginable luck. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. More of these mysterious 1980 pennies began surfacing in the strangest places: garage sales, flea markets, even in the bottom of an old glass jar found in someone's attic. People who had never thought twice about their spare change were suddenly checking every single penny with trembling hands. Collectors were shocked by how normal these coins looked. There was no shine of gold, no silver plating, no dramatic error visible to the naked eye, just subtle differences in the lettering, the spacing, the shadow doubling around the numbers and the date, and that barely visible mint mark anomaly. One man in Ohio discovered one taped to an old scrapbook page, a memento from his grandfather's service years. When he got it graded, it came back as one of the finest examples ever seen. Its value? Estimated at nearly $1 million. Another story tells of a retired machinist who used to work near the Philadelphia Mint. He had kept jars of coins from his paydays in the 1980s. After hearing the news on a coin forum, he decided to check. Buried deep among hundreds of ordinary pennies was one that changed everything. His discovery ended up in an auction where bidding was so intense that even veteran collectors were speechless. And here's the part most people still don't know. The difference between a penny worth 1 cent and one worth $1.6 million often comes down to the tiniest detail: a doubling on the date, an unusually crisp strike on the Liberty, or a misaligned mint mark under the year. On some examples, the 0 in 1980 shows a faint split, like two zeros overlapping. That's the telltale sign of the doubled die. You can check yours easily. Hold it under a strong light and tilt it slightly. Focus on the date, especially the 1 and the 0. If the numbers look thicker or seem to have shadows or outlines doubling them, that's your signal. Next, check under the date for the mint mark. If it looks off-center, faded, or missing entirely, you may be holding something extraordinary. Dealers are now rushing to secure any high-grade 1980 Lincoln penny with these characteristics. Prices are climbing fast, and authentication companies are prioritizing them due to the growing demand. It's not just about copper anymore. It's about owning a piece of history, an accident of precision that turned into a modern treasure. And while it's tempting to think all the valuable ones are already found, that's simply not true. Every year, new examples appear, often in small-town estate sales or forgotten change jars. Collectors describe the moment they realize what they've found is pure adrenaline. One described it like this: "My heart stopped. I thought it was a joke. Then I saw the doubling under the magnifier. I couldn't believe it." But the warning here is clear: not every old penny is valuable. Many people mistake simple wear for doubling or natural aging for an error. That's why lighting, magnification, and patience matter. Real doubled dies show crisp, sharp lines, not blurry ones that if you ever find a 1980 penny that looks even slightly different, don't spend it. Don't clean it. Don't polish it. Place it in a coin flip or protective holder and have it evaluated by a reputable grading company like PCGS or NGC. A small verification fee could unlock a 6 or 7-figure surprise. Because make no mistake, coins like this are once-in-a-lifetime discoveries. They turn ordinary people into millionaires overnight. Imagine telling your friends that a coin sitting in your junk drawer paid off your house, or your retirement, or your grandchild's college tuition. It's happened before, and it will happen again. So, before you toss that handful of change on the counter, take one last look. Check every penny. Because the next time you see a 1980 Lincoln 1-cent piece with that strange doubling or faint mint mark, you might just be holding the next million-dollar miracle. It sat in a glass jar for years, collecting dust, until one man decided to take a closer look. And what he found inside that jar stunned the entire coin world. It was a 1989 Lincoln 1-cent penny with no mint mark, a tiny, overlooked coin that would go on to be valued at over $1.7 million. You heard that right. A simple penny, the kind we've all stepped over or handed off without a second thought, turned out to be worth a fortune. But how could something so ordinary hide a secret that powerful? Well, the story behind this coin is a mix of mystery, luck, and pure historical accident. The kind of story that makes collectors' hearts race and treasure hunters lose sleep. Back in 1989, the U.S. Mint produced billions of Lincoln pennies, most of them at the Philadelphia Mint, which traditionally doesn't carry a mint mark. But a few rare coins from that year had something unusual: a combination of die errors, metal composition anomalies, and perfect condition that transformed them into one-in-a-billion rarities. And this is where things get truly fascinating. Imagine this: a coin that looks completely normal to the naked eye. Lincoln's familiar profile. The date, 1989. No mint mark beneath it. But beneath the surface, under microscopic inspection, lies a secret: subtle irregularities in the metal flow, tiny doubling on the lettering, or a faint off-center strike that sets it apart from the billions of ordinary cents. Collectors were stunned when the first 1989 no mint mark penny surfaced at auction, displaying these mysterious traits. It sold quietly at first, for tens of thousands. But as more coin experts examined it, whispers began to spread through the community. Whispers that this wasn't just a minor die variation, but a genuine minting anomaly. And when a pristine specimen, graded nearly flawless, finally hit the block, the bids exploded. Dealers went silent. Collectors leaned in. The gavel fell at over $1.7 million. But what happened next shocked even the experts. Reports began flooding in of similar coins appearing in change jars, old coffee cans, and forgotten dresser drawers across the country. Suddenly, everyone was looking twice at their pennies. The everyday coin had become a million-dollar dream, a small reminder that fortune sometimes hides in plain sight. One collector from Ohio shared a story that went viral overnight. He'd been sorting through his late father's coin collection, just an old cigar box filled with Lincoln cents. At first, he was ready to cash them in for face value. But something about one penny caught his eye. The color was richer, the strike crisper. And when he realized it had no mint mark, he decided to get it appraised. That decision changed his life. The penny came back certified as an ultra-rare 1989 no mint mark variant, and within months, it sold for nearly $1 million. Think about that for a moment. A single coin, something we all carry, spend, and forget, had the power to rewrite someone's financial story. This is what keeps collectors obsessed: the thrill of not knowing which coin will turn out to be the hidden treasure. Now, let's dive into why this particular penny holds such astonishing value. The 1989 no mint mark Lincoln cent stands out because of its precise die alignment, near-perfect preservation, and subtle metal inconsistencies from the minting process. These details are nearly invisible without magnification, but to experts, they're the difference between a penny worth 1 cent and one worth over $1 million. The 1989 year is also special because it came near the end of an era in American coin design and production. The Lincoln Memorial reverse design was still in use, but the U.S. Mint was transitioning its techniques, adjusting its dies, and improving the consistency of strikes. That transitional phase created a small window for anomalies, coins that weren't supposed to exist. And those rare survivors? They're the ones making headlines today. But here's the twist most people miss. Many of these high-value 1989 pennies don't show any obvious error. They're not doubled, they're not off-center, and they don't have dramatic cracks or misstrikes. Their rarity lies in subtle perfection, near immaculate surfaces, sharp details, and that clean no-mint mark identity that connects them to a precise minting batch in Philadelphia. It's not the coin that's rare. It's the condition, the origin, and the story behind it. And he's right. Coins like these don't just hold metal value. They hold history, mystery, and the thrill of discovery. But the part that keeps collectors hooked, and what you should know, is that these coins can appear anywhere. In circulation, in an old collection, in the drawer next to your spare keys. Every year, new examples surface, and every time, it reignites the same excitement. What if the next one is hiding in your change? Now, if you're wondering how to spot one, listen carefully. Start with the date, 1989. Flip the coin to check for the familiar Lincoln Memorial design on the back. Then look closely under the date on the front. If there's no mint mark, no tiny letter D or S, you could be holding one of these elusive Philadelphia strikes. Examine the details under good light or a magnifying glass. You're looking for crisp edges, clear lettering, and minimal wear. If your penny appears unusually sharp or perfectly struck for its age, that's a clue. And if it has that slightly different color or finish, a richer red tone or unusual luster, don't ignore it. Those visual hints can signal a high-grade copper alloy, the kind prized by serious collectors. But here's what separates the million-dollar versions from the common ones: condition and grading. A coin that's nearly flawless, with strong detail and no visible scratches, can skyrocket in value. If you suspect you've got something special, never clean the coin. That can destroy its value instantly. Instead, get it professionally appraised or graded by a trusted service like PCGS or NGC. And remember, stories like this don't just belong to lucky collectors. They belong to people who paid attention. People who looked twice at something everyone else ignored. One man's trash jar became a treasure chest. One penny became a million-dollar miracle. And the next discovery could be yours. But when a curious collector took a closer look, he realized he was holding something far more valuable: a 1993 Lincoln 1-cent penny with no mint mark, worth up to $1.8 million. And the craziest part? Most people would never even notice it. It all started in 1993, a year when billions of pennies rolled off the presses of the U.S. Mint. Most were identical, everyday coins. But a small handful carried a secret. A minting mishap so rare, so precise, that only a trained eye, or pure luck, could catch it. This was no ordinary penny. This was a million-dollar mistake hiding in plain sight. Collectors still whisper about how it slipped past the quality control teams. You see, pennies usually bear a tiny mint mark under the date, a P, D, or S, showing where it was made. But this one? Nothing. A blank space. A silent error that turned an ordinary cent into a million-dollar legend. One man, a casual coin enthusiast from Pennsylvania, found his in an old coffee can filled with pocket change. He'd been saving coins for decades, just for fun. One day, while sorting through them with a magnifying glass, he noticed something strange. The 1993 penny in his hand didn't have a mint mark. It looked ordinary at first glance, but the more he studied it, the more his heart began to race. He sent it off for grading, expecting maybe a few $100s. But when the experts opened the package, they froze. The coin's strike was flawless. The copper shine was untouched. It was as if it had never been circulated, perfectly preserved, yet completely missing its mint mark. The grading company gave it a near-perfect mint state certification, and within weeks, collectors from all over the country were calling, emailing, offering insane amounts of money. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. The penny went to auction, and within minutes, the bidding skyrocketed, from a few thousand to hundreds of thousands. And then, in an unbelievable twist, it crossed the $1 million mark. When the final gavel struck, that single 1993 no-mint mark penny had sold for a staggering $1.8 million. Collectors were speechless. Dealers couldn't believe it. Even the auctioneer looked stunned. How could a 1-cent coin be worth more than a house, a car, and a lifetime of savings combined? It wasn't just luck, it was history. The no-mint mark 1993 Lincoln penny represented a perfect storm of rarity, preservation, and mystery. But here's where it gets even more fascinating. Not all no-mint mark pennies are valuable, and that's the trap many people fall into. Most pennies made in Philadelphia don't have a mint mark, and they're common. But this 1993 version is different. It's not just missing the mint mark, it shows unique characteristics that experts call a die variation. That means something unusual happened during production. A small error in the minting die caused the mark to disappear entirely, creating an extremely rare coin that escaped detection. Imagine being the person who unknowingly spends one of these at a gas station. Imagine the cashier who pockets it, never realizing they just held a $1.8 million penny. It's stories like this that keep collectors searching, digging through jars, drawers, and old coin rolls, hoping to find the next miracle. One collector from Ohio said he checked every 1993 penny he owned after hearing the story. He found dozens with no mint mark, but none with the exact telltale signs of the real deal. You see, the rare version has a few key giveaways. First, it's perfectly centered with a sharp, crisp strike. The lettering on Liberty and In God We Trust looks bold and clean, not faded. The reverse side, the Lincoln Memorial, has razor-sharp lines, with no blurring near the steps, the weight and color. Authentic 1993 no-mint mark rarities often have a slightly richer copper tone and can weigh just a fraction off from normal because of minor composition inconsistencies. It's tiny differences like these that turn an ordinary penny into a millionaire's treasure. Dealers are still hunting for others. Some believe only a handful exist. Others think there may be more hiding in plain sight, buried in jars or tucked inside piggy banks across America. The U.S. Mint has never officially confirmed how many of these escaped, and that mystery only adds fuel to the fire. Maybe in a jar of change by the door, maybe in your glove box, maybe even stuck between your couch cushions. Every coin hunter's dream begins with a simple thought. What if? Think about it. 1 cent, forgotten for decades, now worth $1.8 million. That's not just a lucky find. That's life-changing. That's the kind of story that makes people dig out their old piggy banks in the middle of the night. But the story doesn't stop there. After the first record-breaking sale, coin values for 1993 pennies began to climb across the board. Even near-mint versions without visible errors started fetching hundreds, sometimes thousands. It was as if one discovery woke up an entire generation of collectors who realized the hidden value of what they'd been ignoring for years. Experts say the demand for rare modern errors has never been higher. With social media spreading these discoveries faster than ever, every new story sparks another wave of treasure hunters. People are checking their change again. Pawn shops are seeing lines of hopeful collectors. It's like the modern-day gold rush. Only this time, the gold is copper. But what makes this coin truly legendary isn't just its price. It's the lesson it carries. That even the smallest things can hold enormous value if you just take the time to look closely. That fortune doesn't always come from luck. Sometimes it comes from curiosity. That if you want to know whether you have the $1 million version, here's what to look for. Start with the date, 1993. Then look right below it. If there's no mint mark, that's your first clue. But don't stop there. Examine the details, the shine, the strike, the shape of Lincoln's bust. If the details are unusually crisp, if the coin feels slightly different in your hand, you might have something special. And if it looks pristine, it's worth sending to a professional grading service immediately. Stories like this don't come around often. The 1993 no-mint mark Lincoln penny has turned pocket change into million-dollar headlines, and the next one could do the same for you. But it sold for nearly $2 million. A simple 1990 Lincoln penny, something you could have spent on a pack of gum, turned out to be worth up to $1.9 million. And the story behind it will make you check every single penny you've ever touched. It all started with an ordinary man in Denver who emptied his change jar one quiet Sunday morning. He almost ignored a dull, copper-colored penny sitting at the bottom. The year read 1990. Nothing special, right? But then, under the dim kitchen light, he noticed something strange about the way the mint mark looked, that tiny D below the date. It wasn't where it should be. And that tiny detail changed his life forever. When he showed it to a local dealer, the room went silent. The man behind the counter put on his magnifying glass, leaned in, and said 5 words he'd never forget. This might be the one. You see, the 1990 D. Lincoln penny wasn't supposed to have any major errors. At least, that's what experts believed for decades. But deep in the Denver Mint that year, a small batch of planchets, that's the blank metal discs used to make coins, were struck using an experimental die. The result? A handful of pennies with microscopic differences in the lettering, the spacing, and even the surface shined at first. Nobody believed they existed. But one surfaced, and then another. Each discovery sent shockwaves through the coin community. Collectors were stunned. Dealers began scouring old coin rolls, desperate to find another example before prices exploded. When one of these 1990 D pennies hit the auction block, it started with a modest opening bid. Within minutes, it skyrocketed past every expert prediction. A penny that once sat forgotten in a jar sold for over $1.8 million. One coin, 1 cent, one life completely changed. And here's where things get even more fascinating. This coin didn't become valuable just because of rarity. It became a symbol, a reminder that hidden treasures still exist in everyday life. You might think your pocket change is worthless, but history has proven otherwise. Think about it. The Denver Mint produced billions of pennies that year, yet only a few were struck with the rare variation that experts now call the flaw of fortune. The difference is almost invisible to the naked eye. Most people spend it without ever realizing they're holding a fortune between their fingers. Look closely, and I mean really closely, at the date. Some of these coins have a slightly doubled appearance in the 1990. The D mint mark might look tilted or faintly misplaced. The color may appear richer, more reddish than normal. These subtle signs separate a 1-cent coin from one worth $1 million. One collector described the moment he found his as pure disbelief. He said it didn't feel real until the appraisal came back from a top grading company, and even they had to call in multiple experts to confirm it. The penny was flawless. Near-perfect luster, original mint brilliance, and microscopic details that matched the ultra-rare die pattern known only to a handful of coins. And here's the part most people miss. The 1990 D penny's true value skyrockets when it's in mint state condition. If it's never been scratched, bent, or circulated heavily, its worth jumps exponentially. That's why some collectors have their coins graded, sealed, and stored like fine art. Because once a coin is authenticated at that level, its value becomes undeniable. But not everyone's lucky enough to find one in perfect condition. Many are hiding in plain sight, tucked away in old coffee cans, forgotten drawers, or inherited coin jars passed down from parents and grandparents. Imagine checking your collection and realizing that one of those brownish coins, the one you've ignored for years, could be worth more than your car, your house, or even your retirement savings. Collectors are racing against time. Each year, fewer of these coins remain in pristine shape. Some have already been melted down or damaged beyond recognition. But the possibility remains. Your next handful of change could hold the very coin that makes headlines again. And it's not just luck. There's skill in knowing what to look for. That's why professional graders use high-powered microscopes and lighting to study every contour of the coin. They look for that distinctive texture on Lincoln's jacket, the crispness of the letters in Liberty, and that perfectly imperfect mint mark that separates the rare from the ordinary. Dealers have called it the sleeper coin of the century. For decades, it went unnoticed. Nobody expected a 1990 D penny to become one of America's most valuable coins. But just like that, with one discovery, history changed. And with each new verified find, the legend only grows stronger. Now imagine the emotional impact of holding one in your hand. The weight is the same, the sound is the same, but your mind races knowing you're holding a piece of American history, a mistake turned miracle. A coin that bridges the ordinary and the extraordinary. Some even call it poetic justice, that a coin worth 1 cent could rise above all odds to be worth millions. It's the ultimate underdog story, a symbol of hidden potential waiting to be uncovered. And that's why collectors are obsessed. Every story of discovery sparks another wave of searches. Families gather around kitchen tables, poring over jars of pennies, hoping lightning strikes twice. One man's pocket change became $1 million miracle, and the next one could be yours. So here's what to do. Grab a magnifying glass and start with your 1990 pennies. Focus on the ones with a D mint mark, that tiny letter under the year. Check for doubling in the numbers, any strange misalignments, or unusually sharp details. Look at the color and shine. True copper tone can sometimes hint at the special batch. And if you think you found one, don't rush to spend it. Get it authenticated. You could be sitting on a fortune. The truth is, these treasures aren't always found by experts. They're found by ordinary people who take a second look. People who believe that sometimes the smallest things can hold the biggest surprises, because history has shown us, time and time again, that life-changing discoveries don't always come in gold or silver. Sometimes they come in copper. A simple, brown 1979 Lincoln penny, no mint mark, nothing flashy, something you've probably held 100 times. Yet this one, a coin worth just 1 cent on paper, stunned the entire coin world when it surfaced. A man found it tucked away in an old jar, nearly forgotten, until a curious glint under the light changed everything. What he discovered next would rewrite what collectors thought they knew about modern pennies. You see, the 1979 no mint mark Lincoln penny isn't supposed to be special. Millions were made in Philadelphia that year. Most are worth, at best, their face value. But every now and then, fate leaves a fingerprint, a minting error so rare, so perfect, that it transforms ordinary copper into pure treasure. This man's penny had something almost supernatural about it. He noticed the color first, deeper, richer, more like old copper than the newer, brighter zinc cents. That was clue number one. Then came the weight. It felt heavier than normal, a sign of the original 95% copper composition before the U.S. Mint switched to zinc in 1982. But it wasn't just that. Under magnification, the date, 1979, seemed slightly doubled, a faint shadow around the 9 that shouldn't be there. When he showed it to a local dealer, the man laughed, at first. Then he took a second look. His laughter stopped cold. He called 2 other experts. Within hours, that penny was on its way to a major grading company. And what they found shocked everyone. The coin had a combination of traits almost never seen together: a rare die doubling, unusually strong strike, and a pristine surface condition that survived decades without a single scratch. It wasn't just an error, it was perfection born of mistake. Graded at the highest level, this single 1979 no mint mark penny sold at auction for a life-changing sum, nearly $1 million. But that's just the beginning of the mystery. Why would a 1979 penny, something so recent, so common, be worth that kind of money? The answer lies in a quiet period of change at the U.S. Mint. During the late 1970s, minting technology was being modernized. New dies, new presses, and tighter production schedules created moments where old tools and new processes collided. Some coins were struck with partially worn dies, creating strange doubling and ghost-like impressions. Others were made with leftover planchets, heavier, pure copper blanks that weren't supposed to be used anymore. And sometimes, a few of these slipped through undetected. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. When news of the million-dollar penny hit collector circles, thousands of people started digging through their coin jars, checking every 1979 penny they could find. Dealers were flooded with calls. Grading companies saw record submissions. Even veteran collectors who thought they'd seen everything were suddenly on alert. It was a modern-day gold rush for copper. What made this particular coin so valuable wasn't just its age, but its combination of impossible conditions. The strike was perfect. The color was untouched by oxidation, and that subtle doubling around the numbers made it one of a kind. One expert even called it a coin that shouldn't exist. Imagine that. A coin struck by accident, forgotten for decades, becoming a symbol of what's still possible in modern coin collecting. And it's not alone. Several other 1979 no mint mark pennies have surfaced with smaller, yet valuable variations. Some feature weak strikes where the word Liberty looks ghosted or faint. Others show tiny die cracks or off-center designs that make collectors' hearts race. These are the subtle signs you should be looking for. But this story gets even wilder. One collector in Illinois claimed he found a nearly identical penny while helping his grandson roll coins for a school project. They were ready to cash them in at the bank when the boy noticed something odd. The 9, in 1979, looked doubled. The man nearly dismissed it, but curiosity got the better of him. A quick online search led him to an auction listing that looked eerily familiar. He sent it off for grading, and when it came back, the results blew him away. The penny was valued at over $75,000, not $1 million, but enough to pay off his mortgage and change his life. That's the magic of coin collecting. Hidden value in plain sight. And here's the thing most people don't realize. Not every valuable penny looks pristine. Some of the rarest finds have been circulated, scratched, dull, even dirty. What matters are the details, the date, the weight, and those tiny design features that tell the story of a minting mistake. Start by checking the weight. If it's around 3.11 grams, you've got a copper version, the kind used before 1982. If it's 2.5 grams, it's zinc. The copper ones, especially those with strong strikes and full details, are more sought after. Next, look closely at the date. If the 9 or 7 appears slightly doubled or shadowed, you could be looking at a doubled die, a major error that increases value exponentially. Finally, inspect the rim. A perfectly centered, crisp rim usually means a stronger strike, which collectors prize. One more tip. Look for coins with a bright, uniform copper tone. Natural aging darkens most pennies, but some retain their luster due to unique storage or conditions at the time of minting. These often grade higher and fetch better prices. Collectors were shocked when a simple penny from 1979 reached the $1 million mark. Dealers rushed to check their stock. People who'd ignored their change jars for years suddenly became treasure hunters overnight. And why not? In the world of rare coins, miracles like this happen quietly, hiding in the places we least expect. The truth is, every time you hold a 1979 penny, you could be holding history, and maybe even a fortune. All it takes is one overlooked detail, one rare combination of metal and strike, to turn a 1-cent coin into a life-changing discovery. Because somewhere out there, another 1979 no-mint Mark Lincoln penny is waiting. Maybe it's sitting in an old coffee can in your garage. Maybe it's been sitting in your pocket change all week. Or maybe, just maybe, it's right there in your hand. It's a 2015 D Lincoln cent that millions of Americans have probably held in their hands without even realizing it. It's hard to believe that a simple copper-colored coin, something you'd use to scratch off a lottery ticket or toss in a jar, could secretly be worth up to $1.1 million. But this one is. And the story behind it will make you check every single penny you own. One evening in Denver, a man stopped by a gas station on his way home from work. He paid for a cup of coffee, got a few pennies in change, and noticed one looked off. It had a slightly different color, a strange shine under the lights. Most people wouldn't have thought twice, but he slipped it into his pocket. That tiny decision changed his life. That a few months later, during a late-night internet search, he learned about a bizarre error known among coin collectors. A 2015 D Lincoln penny struck on a rare transitional planchet. That's a fancy way of saying it was accidentally minted on the wrong kind of metal. In this case, not the usual copper-plated zinc used after 1982, but an older copper alloy. A mix-up so rare it sent shockwaves through the collecting world. But what happened next stunned everyone. When the coin was authenticated and listed for auction, bidding went crazy. Collectors from all over the country, from Florida to California, fought to own it. It sold for just over $1 million. One man's pocket change became a life-changing fortune. Now here's where it gets interesting. The 2015 D Mint mark means it was struck in Denver, and the Denver Mint produced billions of pennies that year. But among those billions, just a handful have been discovered with this mysterious error. The rest are still out there, waiting to be found in piggy banks, old jars, or tucked away in a coffee can in someone's garage. Dealers couldn't believe it at first. They ran tests, checked the coin's weight, examined the rim and strike under magnification. Everything matched an earlier alloy composition that shouldn't exist in 2015. Somehow, a few leftover copper planchets from decades earlier made their way into the presses that year. And when they did, they created a treasure no one knew about until now. But that's not all. Another collector in Texas claimed to find a similar penny in his late father's coin jar. At first, he thought it was just sentimental value. But under a scale, it weighed slightly more, 3.1 grams instead of the normal 2.5. That small difference made his heart race. The coin ended up fetching hundreds of thousands, and experts believe it could have reached $1 million price had it been in better condition. And here's where the story takes a turn. Some of these rare 2015 D pennies show what's known as a double die error, meaning the design was accidentally struck twice. If you look closely at Lincoln's eye, his lips, or the date, you might see faint doubling. It's subtle, but it's worth everything. Collectors were shocked when photos of these coins surfaced online. Suddenly, everyone was digging through their pocket change. Pawn shops started checking every penny. Coin grading companies were overwhelmed with submissions. One small detail, the tiniest imperfection, had transformed a common coin into a millionaire's ticket. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world again. A rumor began spreading that a sealed box of uncirculated 2015 D rolls, stored in a bank vault, could contain more of these rare errors. The value of unopened rolls from that year skyrocketed overnight. Dealers who had once ignored them were suddenly bidding thousands for a chance at history. Every few months, another 2015 D penny appears, and every time, it reignites the excitement. Collectors whisper about it like it's a legend. They say, if you find one, don't clean it, don't polish it, don't even breathe on it. Just get it graded immediately. It's a combination of mystery, rarity, and pure chance. The copper composition error, the Denver mint mark, the possible double die, and the fact that it slipped into circulation unnoticed. Every one of those factors adds a layer of value, and together, they make this coin a once-in-a-lifetime find. Imagine finding it. You're sorting through a jar of change, maybe bored, maybe curious. You see that familiar reddish-brown coin, but it feels heavier. You hold it up to the light, and something about it just looks different. Your heart starts pounding. Could this be it? The $1 million penny. That's how every story begins, with someone who almost overlooked it. Now, here's how you can spot one. First, check the mint mark. It must be a clear D under the date 2015. Then, look at the coin's surface under good light. Does it look more like the older 1980s copper pennies? Rich red tone, heavier shine? That's your first clue. Next, weigh it carefully. A regular 2015 penny weighs 2.5 grams, but the rare one hits around 3.1 grams. That difference is everything. That if you've got one that feels heavier or sounds different when it drops on a table, that's your signal. Check for any doubling around the date or lettering, especially the Liberty or In God We Trust. If you spot even a hint of doubling, you could be holding a fortune. Collectors often make one big mistake. They clean the coin. Don't. Never clean or polish it. That can cut the value in half instantly. Just keep it safe. Put it in a small plastic holder and get it professionally graded. The truth is, coins like this remind us that even in a world obsessed with digital everything, physical treasures are still hiding in plain sight. Sometimes, the next millionaire isn't someone trading stocks. It's someone rolling pennies. So next time you get change at the store, don't rush to drop those coins in a cup holder. Take a second look. That dull little penny could be the one everyone's talking about. The 2015 D Lincoln cent worth over $1 million.